from the inside of this tasting room, it may just look like any other winery. But if you head outside and climb up a couple stairs, you'll find yourself up in a tree. And as it turns out, this tree house came before the wine. No matter what your workout is or what your usual eating habits are, you gotta stay on track. I spoke to one woman who says she can't even enjoy her front porch because of all of this stuff. Laundry. It's a dreaded chore many of us do on a weekly basis. And we often use these big plastic jugs to fill up the machine. But one veteran, he wants you to think twice before pulling out the plastic and look into other options. Before the pandemic, court proceedings almost always happened right here in the courtroom. It's where people would come to testify and lawyers would give the oral arguments. But COVID-19 changed our lives in so many ways. Instead of happening in the courtroom, it all happened right here online. Some people will be doing this for a couple hours, and at least one person for 24 hours. It's all for a good cause, so that kids with special needs can have a brighter future. Brian Van Buren loves listening to his 1910 Thomas Edison phonograph. It puts his mind at ease.
Music really relaxes and calms me. I've been involved with music since I was 5 years old.
Buren deals with a lot of day-to-day frustrations. He often loses his keys or phone.
Maybe once every 3 or 4 days.
It's why he uses these tracking devices.
I don't know if you can hear the ringing.
Buren has early onset Alzheimer's. His long-term memory is still mostly intact.
77 years ago, our forefathers set forth on this continent.
He can recite nearly the whole Gettysburg Address from memory, but can't remember what he did 2 days ago.
And I actually remember what I ate, but then that Monday, Tuesday, then I don't remember.
Currently, there is only one FDA-approved Alzheimer's drug that treats the disease, and not just the symptoms. It's called Aduhelm. But some doctors are worried about the effectiveness and side effects, such as headaches, dizziness, vision changes, and brain bleeds. It's why the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services is proposing to only cover this class of drug if the patient is taking it in clinical trials.
It's very unfortunate because that's going to eliminate a lot of people. They can't afford that kind of, money in terms of medication.
If Buren wanted to take the drug, he would have to pay out of pocket. He doesn't usually qualify for clinical trials because he has pre-existing conditions.
And minorities, very few are involved in any clinical studies. A lot of them aren't because situations like mine where they have things that eliminate them. And so that has to be changed.
Alzheimer's runs in his family.
This is my Aunt Dorothy who had Alzheimer's.
3 of his relatives have died from the illness, and he believes it will also take his life.
Oh, it will. Yes.
But he is holding out hope that he has access to a treatment one day that could change the progression of his illness. Caitlin Wackerman loves the smell of fresh flowers.
I just feel like we're supposed to be out in nature.
She also loves feeling the bark on a tree. But she can only appreciate the beauty of Mother Nature through her sense of smell and touch.
I can't see anything out of my left eye, so that's just kind of like blacked out. And if I were to describe it to people, I always tell them, cover your left eye and then mimic a straw with your other hand and put it over your right eye, and that's your vision.
Wackerman is partially blind, but she wasn't born like this. A few years ago, she could see every detail.
Droplets of water or dew on the plants. I could see every line in a leaf. I could see every detail of color. I could see the multiple colors of things.
She has type 1 diabetes. From 2012 to 2018, she lost part of her vision because she rationed her insulin.
I would go days without taking it, and I would end up in the hospital.
She was working as a bartender back then and says she couldn't afford health insurance because it cost her hundreds of dollars a month.
everyone's like, well, no, Obamacare, no, this, you could have got it for $86 a month. And I said, no, it was $568 a month. I can't, and then to pick up your insulin on top of that, it would still be like, $50 or something. So it's like, it didn't do anything. It just isn't, you're stuck.
She says the out-of-pocket cost for her insulin was about $600 a month.
One is my fast acting. I use Humalog.
What really bothered her is the actual cost to manufacture the drug.
There was a 2018 study that looked into this issue in terms of getting a sense of the manufacturing costs alone and not other related costs. And they found that for most types of insulin, the cost per vial could be as low as $2 to $6 per vial.
The Affordable Insulin Now Act would put a cap of $35 a month on the cost of insulin.
But we know that people with insurance frequently are struggling with the cost of their insulin because of they're being underinsured. They may still be paying hundreds of dollars a month to pay for their insulin.
Wackerman supports the bill, but says it only helps keep costs down for people who have insurance.
I think it helps. Everything helps, yes. The cheaper, great. But like, what are you going to do with the people like me who didn't have health insurance, that didn't solve the problem?
She says any legislation to put a cap on costs will help, but she hopes lawmakers and pharmaceutical companies understand what's at stake when people have to ration drugs if they can't afford them at all.
Everyone wants to make a profit, but it's cheap. It's not like it costs, $300 to make one vial. There's no excuse for it. There's no reason for it.
At 7 a.m. on January 20th, 1943, Charles Richardson walked to this spot in uptown Charlotte.
Right here.
It was 119.5 East 5th Street, a location that doesn't even exist anymore.
I don't recognize this area at all. Not a single building is here now that was there then.
The sounds and architecture of this area are very different from the past.
It looks like New York City now.
But this is still an important place. It was where he was drafted into the Army for World War II.
Go through and find my name is here.
He is reading off a copy of the original draft letter.
I remember being surprised that a number of my classmates were here as well. Lafayette Alexander was a friend of mine.
They all boarded a bus and headed to South Carolina for training. Richardson had no idea what he was getting into.
This was hit right over the target area.
He went on to fight in Europe as a radio operator and gunner.
The whole wing was on fire.
He is describing one day when they were under attack by the Germans. 3 of the 4 engines on their plane failed.
I didn't think I was going to make it, didn't.
Luckily, they did. But that wasn't the case for everyone.
June the 6th, D-Day.
Richardson said he was in a plane flying overhead that day.
One of the toughest moments was watching the boys landing on D-Day and being killed and dying in the water and not being able to do anything to help them.
Richardson didn't want to forget about those men who made the ultimate sacrifice, so he started writing a book decades ago.
Late 50s and early 60s.
But he never finished it because he was taking care of his ill wife.
Camp Croft.
It wasn't until recently that his children,
The Mysterious Big Switch.
and his friend Emily brought his book to life.
This is the first draft of 35 Missions to Hell and Back.
That's the title of the book. Sergeant Richardson survived all 35 of his missions, but he knows others didn't.
And I wanted to tell young people today what these young men did for them and for their country, so that the world would never forget it.